Welcome to the Ben and Walker Movie Show. I'm your co-host Ben Davis.
And I'm Walker Holt.
And we're excited to have this conversation with you on one of our favorite things in the world, movies. We're really new at this. This is our new weekly show where we break down movie news that interests us and talk about some things we're watching and have some fun with some rankings and some games at the end. If this is your first time hearing about us, welcome, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like, please. It helps us out a lot. And since this is our first show, we really want to get word out. And if you want to show support to us, just leave a like, share us around. We would really appreciate it. But Walker, how are you doing, man? It's football Sunday. It's back.
Oh, I know. It's opening day while we're recording this. That's exciting. I'm watching myself lose in fantasy. Actually, I don't know if I'll lose. I'm winning by 9 point. It's 118.04 to 108.32. So like 9.7 I'm winning by. And they have Dalvin Cook left, who's projected to get 9.9. So it's right down to the wire. I'm projected to lose by 0.24. We'll see tomorrow night.
So I'll pull up both my leagues. Right now, I'm winning in both currently. So I'm up 107 to 60. However, the guy I'm going against has James Cook, Stephon Diggs, and CeeDee Lamb that he's currently playing with right now. So he very well could come back, and I have no one else playing. Justin Fields, I thought he was going to have a big day. He only had 13 points for me. And then in my other league, I am winning 106 to 97. And she has Buffalo Bills defense left to play. And I have Stephon Diggs.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm playing against them, and I also have them. Yes, I saw the Panthers. Yes, I saw the Panthers. Listen, Bryce up. That's all I got to say. I'm still a huge fan of Bryce Young. To me, he was clearly the best quarterback in that draft class. I know his stats don't say that today, but he looked really good. But he had some stumbles. He got picked off by Jesse Bates twice, and there were two really good picks. Miscommunications with wide receivers. We just need to get him some support at the wide receiver position. And if we do that, I think we'll be fine. Our defense is really, really good. We need to pay Brian Burns. But I have no doubt that Bryce Young's going to bounce back, and we're going to have a good season, at least a fun season. At least we have some hope because we have it in Bryce Young, who I'm, like I said, a big fan in. So
yeah. We watched it. We watched the Patriots lose too. Tom Brady got his number retired. My wife's a big New England girl and a big Tom Brady girl, so we it's been an emotional afternoon in our house.
I hope Jess doesn't think less of me knowing that I hate Tom Brady. I still refuse to call him the GOAT. It's Peyton.
Yeah, she wants you dead.
All right. Well, I take back what I said. Peyton Manning's the GOAT. Don't kill me, Jess. But yeah, let's go ahead and just roll into some news here, man. So
cool.
There was an article that dropped this week from Vulture titled "The Decomposition of Rotten Tomatoes," and due to the sensationalized title, it drew some controversy on the internet. But I can tell you right now, that title is more interesting than the content of the article itself. It's 1/3 of an interesting article, with the rest being kind of a retread of things that have been said about things like Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic before.
Yeah,
and the last half is really a way to undermine. It felt like online critics from smaller publications and stuff like that. Did you get a chance to read the article?
Yeah, I did read the article, and it felt. It's really interesting. I mean, just the topic is interesting, but again, they're using the nature of the conversation for clicks. Like the nature of how interesting the conversation could be, or whatever, and they're using that title as clickbait. it didn't feel to me like Rotten Tomatoes is just the biggest name involved,
Yeah,
like the most recognizable brand involved, and it feels like a hit piece or like this teardown. When really, I mean, whether you agree with the Rotten Tomatoes format or whether you have a gripe with movie critics in general, I mean, that's your opinion, and it's
and
neither right
movie
or
critics
wrong.
aren't
But
even a monolith either. They're not. They all they come from different diverse backgrounds. And Rotten Tomatoes, and I'll let me break this down. I have so many thoughts about this. Sorry, I don't mean to cut
no,
you off.
go for it.
I want to break this down into three parts. For the most interesting thing about this article is that it points out that a marketing firm called Bunker 15 was allegedly paying critics, and the Bunker 15 reaches out to smaller um, uh, critics and publications so that they can get smaller films recognition
Hmm.
that are like straight to VOD, independent cinema and stuff like that. But they had
So
been
is that sorry?
allegedly,
Is that what Bunker 15 does? They're like a PR firm for a movie.
yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah, they're a PR firm for them. But for the past 5 years, they got accused of giving critics $50 a pop to review films, and in this case, they used the one only example that they use is this movie Ophelia, a movie that came out in 2018 at Sundance Film Festival,
Mm-hmm.
which is where movies get to or go to premiere to get picked up for distribution. Um, but it didn't get distribution until like a year later. It was sitting at 46%, if I remember correctly, when it premiered, and it currently now has a 62%. The problem comes in where Bunker 15 was emailing, and they in this article, you can read the article. They go in there, and there's a couple of examples that they use. Um, some critics saying that they can publish their reviews, whether it's positive or negative. But if it's negative, just hide it away from the website that Rotten Tomatoes would be publishing it from.
Yeah, post on a
And
smaller
that's of course,
website.
yeah, and that's of course
It's
very
manipulative.
shady and very. It's really awful. As a critic, we only have our voices. That's all you have. And if you're willing to sell that, then you have nothing. And then the second point that they get into in the article, it points to the flaws of the system of Rotten Tomatoes, and how studios can take advantage of the system. Such as inviting certain critics that they think will be more positive to the premiere of it, so they can get their review out first, and then it premieres with a super high rating. And you'll see this with films recently, like The Flash, where it had like a 76% or something like that. Now it's sitting at like a 62, which is still solid, but it's not 76%. And then you'll see it with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumanium,
Oh
Wonder
yeah.
Woman 1984. And then you'll see the inverse of that too, with, they premiered Indiana Jones at Venice as well as the Pixar animated movie that just came out that I still haven't seen yet.
Elemental.
Yeah, Elemental. Those premiered with really low ratings, and now their ratings are pretty respectable. Um, so that's a way that they can do it. There's also the fact that, like, if you click on the percentage, let's say like a movie has like a 98%. If you click on that, maybe the average score is 3 out of 5. So while
Right.
it is, most people do like it, it might not be super glowing. But then something that's like 82%, you click on it, and it's like most average score is like 4.5 out of 5 or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, the score is really high. Um, any system like this isn't perfect. It's a little flawed, because all it is it's an aggregator. And
Hmm.
it's a good tool to use. It's why we use it on our deep dive show, because it allows you to scroll through so many critics' opinions and gather them in a place where you can kind of gauge where people are with this movie. And it's a good way to find critics that you like too.
Mm-hmm.
Not ones that you always agree with, but critics that you might, like to listen to because of the way that they articulate themselves and all that. So while it is a flawed system and it's certainly not perfect and critics aren't perfect, it's the best you can kind of got outside of, Cinema Score, which takes, people's reactions out of the theater. And then of
That's
course
tough too.
that's
I
tough.
mean, that's
Metacritic.
tough too. I mean, how many times have you walked out of a movie feeling one way and it's soured on it a month later because you're like, I was just hype, Rise of
It
Skywalker.
happens.
No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I love that
um,
movie more now. Dang it.
no, I completely agree with you. I mean, the system's interesting. It tells a specific story, like it kind of breaks it down for like what you want to know. Like, do people like the movie or not like the movie more so than getting down to the nitty gritty? And the average moviegoer doesn't necessarily want to get into the nitty gritty to know whether or not this movie's an 84 or a 93. They just want to know, do most people like it or not like it, So
Yeah.
I think it's great. And what really sucks is maybe you don't agree with the system. Maybe you think it's flawed, and sure it's flawed, but I don't know if you have a better solution or not, but they're using Rotten Tomatoes brand name on this thing too to create like a bigger thing than it, you know what I mean? Like now, I mean, people are going to see it and think Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, Rotten Tomatoes is
Well,
crooked, and then they're going to go into it.
people already think that. They think that, oh, critics are paid off,
Yeah,
and this doesn't it doesn't help our cause. It certainly helps, the people that think critics are paid off and all that stuff. It helps their cause. And there was a small percentage of people that were paid for this, but those people who are paid to post a positive review when they feel negatively, they're not real critics. I'm
sure.
sorry. Again, the only thing you have as a critic is your word. And if you are willing to take money to change your
Yeah,
viewpoint,
you're an advertiser.
yeah,
You're an
that's all you
advertiser
are.
for the movie. That's all you are. They're paying you to promote the movie. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just yeah. I completely agree with you.
yeah. I
Um,
think the thing that hurts me the most, and this about this article, and this is where the article completely loses me, is when it tries to paint this picture of Rotten Tomatoes as being so bad now. Is because about 5 or 6 years ago, Rotten Tomatoes expanded its portfolio of critics by almost 1,000 people. A lot of these write for smaller sites, their own blogs, and also on their own online outlets. This was, done in an attempt to diversify its pool of critics by growing it 50% in women, 25% in people of color, and 66% from underrepresented groups. And now,
mhm.
to me this is a great thing because when you get a more diverse pool of critics, not only are you opening the door for these people who maybe wouldn't have that opportunity, but it also gives you a more diverse, train of thought, which expands the conversation so that it doesn't sound so like samey. It doesn't sound like you're in an echo chamber. Um,
Yeah.
and Vulture, with little to no evidence that can be picked apart, because they pointed at to some statistics but those can be picked apart, tries to make an argument that it wasn't done for diversity's sake, but rather done to help studios with bigger blockbuster films. And to me, this is nothing more than a big publisher punching down at smaller critics who quote don't get it. And man, it's the unfortunate reality is that this space is that it could be a little gatekeepy,
Mhm.
and history has shown that even with my favorite critic of all time, Roger Ebert, um, for his show, Welcome to the Movies or At the Movies. I used to watch it every Sunday. Was called Death of Film Criticism because of him and Siskel's, thumbs up, thumbs down. You know, all
Yeah.
you're taking our whole movie and you're just putting it down to like a thumbs up, thumbs down, which is similar to, oh, you're taking my movie and just slapping a score up on it. It's a very similar thing. I could go on about this all day, but I'll end by saying this. I think anyone can be a film critic. you just have to do three things. That is, state an opinion in a thoughtful and insightful manner, be able to do so by properly articulating that opinion, and be honest, even when it's not popular. I love The Rise of Skywalker. Most people hate it.
Yeah.
And I will die on that hill. It's not popular, but hey, it's just my opinion, and I get why most people don't like it, but I love it.
Yeah, I came on here a couple weeks ago to talk about Justice League with two people who love the movie, and I am not into it. And it was
No,
an uncomfortable hour to talk. I mean, not really. I'm joking, but it's not easy to come forward with an unpopular opinion.
well, it's okay to be wrong too, Walker. Um, no, I'm just messing, but some of my favorite critics are some from smaller outlets and stuff like YouTube. So, I used to watch. I was a little too young for Siskel and Ebert. Siskel passed away before I could actually start watching the show, and when I grew up, it was Ebert and Roper. And I used to watch from, I think, the summer of 2001 up until Roger Ebert left the show. I watched that every Sunday morning. It was what I did every day. And after that show went away, of course I got to read Roger Ebert's reviews online, but I missed that video format too. And that's when I found people like Chris Stuckman, people like the Schmozno, which is Mark Ellis and Christian Harloff, and then Jeremy Johns and uh, Dan Murrell, Perry Nemiroff, those kind of people. Those are some of my favorite critics, and I don't always agree with those critics, but I love the way that they articulate their thoughts and their opinions. And I hate the punching down mentality that this article kind of had at the back half. When at the beginning of it's a really good article, and then it delves into something that I think is a little messy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it implicates, or it implies this is Ophelia is the example we're talking about, but who knows what else is happening on an already questionable industry where people have opinions about the Rotten Tomatoes system, or they have opinions on movie critics and their authenticity in general, and it just kind of leaves it up to the imagination, I think, of
Yeah.
the readers, which isn't very fair, um, and really implicates Rotten Tomatoes just due to being the biggest brand mentioned. As far as, I mean, not that they need any help being implicated. I mean, I know people have opinions already, but it just doesn't do anybody any favors, and it heavy is the head that wears the crown. We're this giant company that has changed the industry is obviously, even though they're the least involved from this article, of all the people at fault in this implication or this accusation, is Rotten Tomatoes is the least guilty out of all of them, but they're the most recognizable brand. So we have it written down in our notes as the Rotten Tomatoes article.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that sucks. It's not the Bunker 15 or the whatever.
It's not the Ophelia scale, and they don't use any other real movies outside of Ophelia.
Yeah. Also, never heard of this movie. Have you heard of this movie?
Yes,
I know. I saw Daisy Ridley. I've never. Have you seen it?
Yeah. I was not a fan.
Okay.
I was not a fan. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I didn't really care for it.
Got it.
She was great, which I think she's great in everything I've seen her in. But it's,
Gotcha.
Unfortunate. I just didn't really care for the movie. But oh well. Yeah. Have you heard about this new The Crow movie, Walker? Are you familiar with The Crow? First off,
the Crow reboot or the original Crow?
The original.
Dude, I haven't seen it. I feel like people are gonna hate that. I haven't seen it. I do. I am. Here's what I know about it. It was filmed in the great Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. We still bring it up. What's it? 30 years old now.
Almost, because it came out in, I think, May of '94, and I'm almost 30. So yeah.
I do know someone was tragically accidentally killed on set. Very similar to like the Rust situation with Alec Baldwin.
Brandon Lee. Yeah. Brandon Lee.
Screen Gems right down the road from my house. But that's about it. I did look up the movie today to see that it's getting a 2024 release. I see Bill Skarsgård is in it. I love that family. That family's so good. I mean, Bill Skarsgård's great. I mean, what's he been in? He's been in John Wick.
Bill Skarsgård, yeah, he's been in John Wick. He was in Barbarian. He was obviously in It as Pennywise.
Right. I saw his audition earlier on Instagram for some reason. I think the Oscar Instagram feed posted it. His audition for Pennywise. I saw Alex Skarsgård just crushed it in Succession. I don't know if you watched Succession, but the last season he was kind of the antagonist really in it, and Alex Skarsgård really blew me away. And then Stellan, the dad, he's awesome in Andor. He's all Dune. I mean, he that family is just oozing with talent.
Yeah,
but I don't. I'm not very familiar with the franchise, but I should watch it.
So here's the thing: you need to watch The Crow. Don't worry about the sequels. Just watch the first one. It is incredible. It is a movie that I watch yearly on Halloween. I'd usually do a double feature or sometimes a triple feature with Scream, Grindhouse, like the 2-part movie, Death Proof, Planet Terror, and then The Crow. The Crow it was one of those movies that used to come on HBO all the time back in the day, and I would record it and watch it over and over and over and over and over again. I absolutely love that movie. And they are doing a remake, and they have tried to do a remake several times over. At one point, Jason Momoa was going to play Eric Draven. Tom Hiddleston was going to do it. Bradley Cooper was going to do it. I think there's a bunch more that I'm forgetting. I think Luke Evans at one point was going to do it as well. But Deadline, this is coming from Deadline. Lionsgate just tied up the 8-figure deal for domestic rights to the Crow reboot. We can't reveal. Bill Skarsgård, singer, songwriter, FK Twigs, Danny Houston, and lead Rupert Sanders, reimagining of the 1994 cult classic that memorably starred Brandon Lee in his last role. So Rupert Sanders, the guy who directed Snow White and the Huntsman, is directing this. Oof. It could be good.
I haven't seen that either.
Okay, so in the original thriller, a man who is brutally murdered comes back to life as an undead avenger of his and his fiance's death. Both movies are based on the graphic novel of the Gothic character created and written and illustrated by James O'Barr. It doesn't look like there is a release date, but it says it's supposed to be released next year. The script for the reboot comes from Oscar nominee Zach Balan, who wrote King Richard, and Will Schneider. Okay. That has me excited. All right. The movie is budgeted at $50 million. Was shot in Prague and Munich. All right, so it's definitely going to have the Gothic aesthetic. We appreciate.
I feel like Prague's coming up. I already watched all the Mission Impossibles, like before Dead Reckoning recently, and the first one, is filmed in Prague, and I feel like I noticed it, and I did like a little research on them filming in Prague, and now it feels like a couple movies have been filmed in Prague. I can't remember what they are.
Was it it just feels like it's come Prague?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. But the quote is saying, "We appreciate what the Crow character in the original movie mean to legions of fans, and believe this new film will offer audiences an authentic and visceral representation of its emotional power and mythology," said Lionsgate's EVP, Acquisitions and Co-Productions, Charlotte Coe, who will oversee for the indie major to work with a creative team led by Rupert's unparalleled visual style and storytelling with a producing team who have made some of the most popular and impactful films of the last several decades is a true privilege. The original left an indelible mark on our culture that lives on. We are thrilled to bring this new adaptation for today's audiences that represents his legacy. Rupert has masterfully brought new dimensions to create a contemporary universe for his timeless saga of undying love, and we can't wait to share this version with film audiences. So here's the thing. I did get a little nervous hearing Rupert Sanders is directing this because he did Snow White and the Huntsman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, he does have a great visual eye. He does. So visually, if anything else, this movie will look great. And the script is being written by the Oscar nominee Zach Balan, who did King Richard and Will Schneider. So that's something to be excited about. I do think this movie it used to be cursed because it's had so many different hands on it over the years.
Right.
But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I should see the first one. I've heard good things about the first one. Obviously, I'm a big advocate of Wilmington. I've said it before on here. I'll say it again. And Bill Skarsgård again. I've got faith in it. Why not? If he attached
Yeah,
himself, I mean,
Bill
he's hot right now.
it's like Hansel. He's so hot right now. No, I think it's a really inspired casting choice.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I'll rewatch the original between now and then, and I'll be ready for it. I'm excited. I was at the movies this weekend. Have you seen that Taylor Swift's putting her concert in the theater?
I have seen that. I've read up on it a little bit. She's crushing records with
Yeah,
what
I
they're
don't know the
doing.
numbers, but I think she's coming up on like 100 million in pre-sales. I feel like in tickets.
It's
I mean,
sold
like
more
crazy
than
enough.
Infinity War or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like her concert, her tour, her live performances are changing economies. They're fixing
Yeah,
countries. I mean, like she's I think she's one of the hottest topics in Congress right now. I mean, it's I think she's
don't doubt
single. I mean,
T Swizzle.
what she's doing is very impressive.
Yeah, don't
Uh,
doubt T Swizzle, man. Like
yeah, I
seriously.
love Taylor Swift. I mean, I'm not like she's not like someone I daily think about, but obviously I love her music. I like her songwriting's great, and her what she's done from a business perspective is incredibly impressive. And then from the art
She's
perspective, it's
genius.
also phenomenal. I mean, I know obviously she cares about production value. Every single person from people who've been to 5 concerts in their life to like influential celebrities that have access to any show they want to go to and make art themselves. Every single word I've heard from it has been nothing but it blew me away. It made me a fan within 20 minutes. I loved it. So I imagine it's not going to compare seeing it in theaters is not going to compare to live, but I imagine there's going to be some thought put into it and it's going to be a good experience in the theater as well. I think
Yeah,
she'll
I mean, she has the thing is she's a genius what she's done business wise. She owns her music. She re-recorded those songs so she could own her music. It belongs to
yeah.
her now.
Yeah,
And
that's I
what
mean
she's done
it's
with this
awesome.
tour is incredible. The fact that she was able to throw this movie together in a short amount of time, go over pretty much everyone's head, go straight to the distributor and say, "Hey, I want this movie out on this date." And now other movies are having to move around her. And Jason Blum's putting out tweets like, "Look what you made me do. Exorcist is moving up a week to give me nightmares, probably."
That's funny. Yeah, so it's great though. I mean, no one, movie theaters. It's not like they're at an all time. They're not thriving. They're looking for what's next. So it's kind of. I mean, what if she single handedly can fix a state's economy? Maybe she can help with movie theaters too and get AMC to the moon again. I think but it also makes me wonder. I mean, I know we've done other things like the Bieber documentary and the different unorthodox movie theater. Have you ever rented out a theater?
No, although for my dirty 30, that thought has slipped my mind.
I've never done it either. I would love to do it, whether it's for like a game or I don't even know how to go about it, but whether it's for like a big event or a video game I've even seen people do or something like that, like that'd be so sweet. I've never done it. Um, but this just made me think like, what else are they going to do? You know, like if this is a success, you know, obviously everyone's talking about Barbenheimer and that like awoken the theater this summer. And
Yeah,
I mean, we saw, and I
after a
loved it.
really
I
bad June.
loved it. Yeah, everything about that I was so into. I mean, I went to the theater a bunch this summer and seeing people dressed in pink, seeing people interact with like the cardboard cutouts in the lobby, it felt like I was 12 again. It felt like old school movie theater. I loved it. Um, and I know Hollywood's gonna or cinema, big cinema, and Hollywood are gonna try to replicate that again artificially, and it's probably not going to work as well. But
Not
I
gonna
don't
work.
care. I want them
Nothing like that.
get them.
Anything like that has to be organic.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But still, I don't mind them trying to get people in there because I loved. I don't know. I'm just a movie theater fan. I love the experience of
There's
cinema. I
nothing like
love
being in
sitting
a
in there
movie
with
theater
people
with
and
a bunch of people.
yeah. So I mean, even if they artificially do something, if it, I mean, it might work. It'd be fun to see. But this Taylor Swift thing, where do you stand on it? I mean, I could see people saying like, no, movie theaters are for movies, not concerts. But I could see
I
that
mean,
being a fun thing, another community aspect, even like big games, you know, March Madness, Super Bowl, a big college basketball game. I don't know, just things that like the community can go. It can help the theater, help with the brand, help with the economy, help with the community. And then, I don't know. I mean, I wonder if it would work, first of all, and then I wonder if we would like it, second of all.
well, it depends on how successful this is, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, generally speaking, concert films do not do gangbusters and at the blockbuster or at the box office. They just don't, generally speaking. But this is Taylor Swift, so who's to say? Who knows? Um, I do like the idea of going to the theater more because I love the movie theater experience. I love going. Um, but it just it depends on how this goes. If it is a big success, then maybe they'll try to replicate it. But maybe it'll be a big success and it'll prove to be a one-time thing because it's Taylor Swift, or this thing will not be as successful as its pre-sales would indicate. So there's really
We'll have to
a
wait and see.
lot that could happen. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Um, we saw a lot of trailers this week, man.
Yeah.
A lot of trailers.
There's been a bunch.
There's been a bunch. So let's start off with this. First, we have the Bikeriders. So, Bikeriders is a 2023 American drama film written and directed by Jeff Nichols. It tells a fictional story inspired by a 1967 photo book of the same name by Danny Leon and stars an ensemble cast that includes Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Mike Feist, and Norman Reedus.
I didn't see Norman Reedus in there. That's funny.
So, like, this trailer, it looks awesome. It looks like good fellows on motorbikes. I'm game.
Yeah, well, my first thought was, did Austin Butler fix his voice? Did he lose the Elvis accent?
Hey, mama.
And did Tom Hardy break his? When he sounds like somebody from West Side Story. And it's also the most I've ever heard him talk in a movie. It does look good. It does look good. Have you seen?
Yeah, it looks really good.
I've never watched Sons of Anarchy. Have you ever seen that?
I know. A lot of my friends watch it and swear by it. They love it. Yeah. It's one of their favorite shows.
People have recommended it to me so long. I've never seen it, but it gave me the vibes. Norman Reedus is a cool addition. Tom Hardy and Austin Butler are great castings. I think they'll pull it off. It looks good. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's not in it. Feels like he should be. Feels like if Norman Reedus is in it, his motorcycles, he should be.
That's a good call. Yeah, he probably should be
Yeah.
in this. But no, I think it looks really good. I think it looks really good. I'm excited. Anything with Tom Hardy, I'll watch. I love Tom Hardy, but also Austin Butler. He's a star on the rise.
Yeah, I'd like to
He's
see
great
more
in
of him. I'm
Elvis.
excited about Dune. I mean, Elvis. I liked Elvis a lot. It's hard. I got kind of defensive on it because I was really on the Brendan Fraser train. So whenever Austin
Mm-hmm.
Butler came up, he was like my enemy in my mind. You know what I mean? Because I not that he didn't do great. I think he definitely does. If he had won it, he was a deserving winner. But I just wanted Brendan Fraser to get that win. So like Austin Butler was just the opponent at that point. So I kind of dismissed his performance, but it was amazing, and Elvis was awesome too.
Yeah,
So yeah,
his performance was
I'm excited
fantastic.
about this.
He was my dream cast for Superman before David Cornsweet came in and got the role. So
Yeah,
yeah, he'll be good.
yeah,
I believe in James Gunn. New Exorcist trailer dropped. Uh,
yeah.
Listen, dude, I've said this on the Instagram feed on the story a lot, joking that like you're gonna have to come see this movie with me. I'm joking, but I'm also not. Like you can go back, you can listen on the podcast feed. I did a podcast on the first Exorcist and how that movie like really affected me when I saw that movie way too young.
Mhm.
Uh, and the sequels are really cheesy, not as good. But this one has like a weird feeling to it, man. This so it comes out in a few weeks, and the plot synopsis is when his daughter Angela and her friends Catherine show signs of demonic possession. It unleashes a chain of events that force single father Victor Findling to confront the Nadir of evil. Nadir, Nadir. How do you say that?
I don't know.
I don't know. Terrified and desperate, he seeks out Chris McNeil, the only person alive who's witnessed anything like it before. So Chris McNeil is Reagan McNeil's mother from Ellen Burstyn played her in the original, and she comes back for this.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I think the movie looks creepy. It looks really, really creepy and really effective, especially like as a father now, seeing especially
Yeah.
little girls because I'm a girl dad. Struggle like that, it gets me, man. I can't do it. It's really, really hard. Um, and then of course dealing with like to me what is the most terrifying thing, which is demonic possession. It always scares me, always freaks me out. But as a film, the thing that I'm a little worried by, I love David Gordon Green. I think he's a really good filmmaker. I love Pineapple Express. I'm probably one of the only people alive that really likes Your Highness. Uh, but I think he directed Your Highness. I'm pretty sure he
I don't
did.
even
I'm
know.
gonna look.
Your Highness hasn't been in my brain since the last time I saw the trailer for it. I haven't. I forgot that existed.
Yes, he directed Your Highness. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He also directed Stronger, which is also a really good movie as well. That said, he's also the director of 2018's Halloween, its sequel,
Okay.
Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. And those movies went
It's by the
from meh
Charleston
to
guys, right?
bad to terrible. Yeah.
Right. It's the Charleston guys, Danny McBride and his buddies making the
Yeah.
movie, which
And
who
they're
are
making this.
talented people.
Incredibly
The-
talented. Like
I mean,
one
Eastbound
of
and
my
Down is
favorite.
fantastic. Vice
Mhm.
Principals is fantastic. I mean, they're great. And I realize
Oh,
the close
and
relationship between
uh,
comedy and horror. Righteous Gemstones.
yeah, thank you. Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that show, and I love Danny
Me
McBride. I
too.
love this story.
It's one of the better things running right now.
Yeah,
Um good, sir.
but I just I don't, which I think it's because I'm not a fan of the Halloween franchise in general. Like, there's not really a Halloween
Mm,
film that I care for.
mm.
But I'm a little worried about it because I didn't like any of those films, despite my appreciation for him and admiration for him as a filmmaker and a writer. Uh, so I'm a little worried, a little apprehensive because of
I
my feelings toward that franchise and how it ended.
Yeah, I think I feel exactly the same as you. I mean, but let me break something down pretty early on. I think I'm probably gonna have to do this a lot, being newer to the show, just to get my horror movies. I think you like them a lot more than I do. I'm not
I
a
do.
fan. I'm gonna watch. So
I've
here's
gathered.
when you're gonna catch me watching the horror movie. My wife loves them. So when Jess wants me to watch a horror movie, is when I'm gonna watch one. The second time is when we want to review a horror movie. I'll watch it. After that, the only time it's happening is if it's like a huge release that like everyone's talking about it and we're gonna go to it. That's pretty, just something big. A Jordan Peele movie I'm for sure seeing. And I'm gonna like that. That's a little different. That's not so reliant on jump scares and the things that I don't like about horror movies. But um so either we're reviewing it, Jess wants to go, or it's a huge release, or it's getting great reviews. So, like, for example, last year, I still haven't seen them yet. I'm behind on my list, but like X, Pearl, Fresh, a couple examples of horror movies that got acclaim and good reviews that I do want to see just because I heard they're great movies. Um, but I wouldn't have seen them had I not heard from other critics and things that they were good movies. So I'm never gonna be like super excited. I would probably say my least favorite type of horror movie are like the franchised. I don't know. They're just scary, man. They're scary. Sometimes I'll see one that I'll like a lot, but a lot of times they're a little outside the box horror movies. Like I consider the Jordan Peele movies. I mean, maybe you generalize them as horror, but they're not your run of the mill horror movies.
No,
They're a little different.
they're
And then even
different.
stuff like The Invisible Man, is that what was it called with the girl from Handmaid's Tale. I forgot her name.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Someone in the comment section will definitely get us for it. But um,
um, like that
I know
was
who you're
kind
talking
of
about. But
a little bit different. It was more of a thriller suspense. I don't know, just the typical graphic uh jump scare type horror movies. I'm just not that into. Now, Exorcist, I do have a unique experience with, completely opposite of you. You snuck downstairs to watch it as a youngling, right?
I was
Uh,
5 or 6. I was 6 years old. My sister was watching it with her friends. And my oldest sister
yeah.
was watching it with her friends, and I hid behind the couch because I wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
And it scared me so bad. I slept behind the couch, didn't move, didn't move.
Yeah.
It terrified me, and I didn't rewatch it until several years ago, or a couple of years ago, um, because I was doing it for a podcast, and also like I just wanted to get over that fear of finally
Hmm.
watching it again. And it is now, I consider it to be one of the greatest faith based movies ever made because of there's one shot in the movie, and I want to give it away, but you'll see it involves someone walking up, not the crab walk down the stairs, but someone walking up the stairs when they're at their lowest of low. It visually, it's one of those like grr moments. It just gets me right in the
Hmm.
feels. I absolutely love it. So yeah, a long-winded way of saying yeah, I really love that movie. And you have an exact opposite experience where I'm feeling you probably don't like this movie at all, or you don't
Well,
find
I
it
don't
scary.
dislike the movie. I need to watch it again. So my exact opposite experience was I watched it for the first time when I was like 21. So like the
Okay.
douchiest age you could watch it. Like I'm a grown man. Um, this movie's 50 years old. It's lame. It's not even scary. I watched it at Jackson Parker's house, and it was my idea to watch it just because it was kind of a like a classic. Like, oh, we gotta watch this. We were looking for a movie to watch at that time. We were always thinking scary. It was like, well, why don't we check off Exorcist? We've never seen that. And then I felt like guilty. I don't know. It's always tough. Like that's kind of an age, like a judgmental age, and like an impatient age where you're not really ready to watch a 50-year-old movie. You know what I mean? And like respect it for what it was when it came out. And you're also not at an age that you're susceptible to being terrified by a 50-year-old movie either. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
when you're 20, so so that was a tough first experience for me to have. I wasn't mature enough to respect and appreciate the movie, but I was old enough that it wasn't scary to me anymore. You know what I mean? It hit like this weird
It's
place
like
for
me
me. But
watching
I'd like to
Rosemary.
re-see it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I get it, but look, I'm looking forward to the movie. All jokes aside, I am probably going to see it. Although I'm low key like kind of sketched about it. Like, I don't
Right.
want to, but I feel like I gotta. I gotta get over that fear. I
Yeah.
don't like having anything like holding anything on me. So I gotta go see it. But
Yeah.
that's not the only trailer that dropped. Need to move on here to Saltburn. This is the latest from Emerald Fennell, whose last movie, Promising Young Woman, was freaking terrific.
I thought it was great.
And,
I was
yeah. And this is about a student is invited to an eccentric classmate's estate for an exciting summer. I think it's kind of like Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah, I guess it is. That's a cool movie. I haven't seen that in a long time. But I think
I
it
feel
looks
like it's
great. I
kind of like
love the
that.
vibe. I dig it. I mean, this looks good to me. I'm a bit pretentious with stuff though, and I love like Wes Anderson-y type, like oddball type stuff. And I like the symmetry that was shown in in the trailer. You know, like how he does. My first reaction was like they're doing their best Wes Anderson impression, but I respect her. I mean, that Promising Young Woman was awesome. This looks good to me. The cast looks awesome. I think.
Yeah, it's got Jacob
Rosamund
Elordi,
Pike, I love her from Gone
Morgan
Girl, and I Care a Lot. I Care a Lot and
Freeman.
Promising Young Woman came out in similar time periods, and both like strong female lead type movie. And I um
I
enjoyed I
care a
Care a
lot.
lot too,
I care a lot's the one with where
where
she's
she takes
stealing from
advantage.
of the
Yeah,
old people.
elderly folks.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did not
she's
care.
taking the.
I
You didn't
didn't
like that
care for
movie?
that one. No, but
Yeah, I like it.
I do love Rosamund Pike. Gone Girl's
Yeah,
amazing. But yeah,
yeah. And
generally,
Archie
I
Madekwe, who
am
we'll
I'm
talk about
looking
a little
forward
more.
to this.
Yeah, Archie Madekwe's in it, who we're going to talk about a little later, and from Gran Turismo and C, and a couple other things, and then Jacob Elordi from Euphoria. I think the cast is great. It looks exciting. It looks interesting. Um, I don't know what
Yeah,
else to say about it. I'm ready for it.
I am too. I am too.
I like the title too, Saltburn. I don't really know that. I guess that's the estate they're staying in, or a town or something.
Yeah,
But I dig
at the
it. I'm
Saltburn
into it.
estate. Yeah. Next one we saw was Thanksgiving. So this one kind of holds a special place in my heart, man, because
Mm-hmm.
there was a little movie I saw, and I just mentioned it earlier in the show, back in 2007, and it's probably my favorite theater experience ever, called Grindhouse, where they show Planet Terror and Death Proof back to back, and in between the trailers, that to create a more authentic Grindhouse type experience, they had false trailers in between the movies.
Oh, that's cool.
They had like Machete play at the opening before you saw Planet Terror, and then in between you had like Edgar Wright's Don't. You had Werewolf Women of the SS, which is like Rob Zombie's movie. Then you had Thanksgiving, which is Eli Roth's movie. And 16 years later, they decided to make a movie about it. Thanksgiving is an upcoming American slasher film written by Eli Roth and produced by Roger Bernabom from a screenplay written by Roth and Jeff Reindel. It is based on Roth's mock trailer from the same name from
I did not
Grindhouse.
know. That's so cool. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks brutal.
Yeah. Have you seen like the actual false trailer for it?
Not the false trailer.
Before this one? All right.
No.
So I'll send it to you. It's real graphic.
Okay.
It's real
Okay.
graphic.
The one
and
from Grindhouse?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's real graphic.
This looks like the movie's going to be brutal though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it just because of the nostalgia I have for Grindhouse. The movie, not the form of I wasn't even born, or probably wasn't even an idea yet when those movies were being shown at Grindhouse Cinemas, but real Grindhouse Cinemas. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure if the movie will be good or not. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but um, I'm
Well,
looking forward
I
to
went
it.
to the theaters this weekend and I walked by the poster and laughed. I love movie posters. It almost every time I go into a theater, it's just kind of sad. Like certain like you like look down, like, oh, you're in theater 2 down to the left or whatever, and you turn the corner and like how they used to have the big like the signs above each door so you could see which movie was playing each theater.
Yeah.
Like they don't even turn those on anymore. It just feels like you're walking into like a Kmart or something, and they're just like empty shelves and shit everywhere. Like there's just like all the
Oh,
combos at
it's
Regal
so
are.
depressing.
I know it just sucks. But the movie posters, and sometimes I feel like the movie posters, like they don't change them out enough, and they're like they don't have lights around them, so they're just like they don't care. It's not the same spectacle it used to be. But I still, when I go, I like to like look at them all, and it was I'm nostalgic about a time before the internet where like you'd go to the movies and it'd be the first place you got to see like trailers that no one had seen before. But now it's like if you have Instagram and you're anything into movies, you see the trailer 20 seconds
Hey,
after it's
they did that.
dropped.
They
I
did
mean,
that
or maybe
last
even
year
before.
with Avatar, Avatar: The Way of Water.
But
That
drunk.
trailer did not drop. It dropped in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, but didn't
Oh, yeah,
drop
well, that's
online
cool.
for like another week.
Yeah. But
Um,
just the general like thought. I mean, and maybe I'm a little jaded because I'm such a movie guy, but it just feels like you used to before or after the movie like walk through and look at all the posters and be like, oh, that looks good, but now it's like I know about all of them before, and maybe that's my fault because I'm so like in it with movies, but so my point is I like to walk through and look at the posters. Sometimes make me feel nostalgic, and I saw this
it,
Thanksgiving poster and I laughed, and then when I watched the trailer I laughed even harder when I saw Lewis Litt from Suits in it, which I've only seen a little bit of Suits. I know it's exploding right now. I don't know why it's so popular on Netflix right now, but seeing him on there made me laugh. At least looks like
yeah.
TikToker Edison Ray's in it too.
So Eli Roth is hit and miss for me. But if they
Mm-hmm.
can nail like the horror comedy of this and make it as ridiculous as it looked like it was going to be 16 years ago, then I think I'm in for a good time.
Yeah. Are there
Um,
any other Thanksgiving movies you can think of?
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That's a good answer, and that one seems to get shown at Christmas time, doesn't it? But that is a great. That's a great. I
Did a
forgot about
podcast
that.
on it last
In
year for
my head,
things.
I was thinking like Knives Out felt kind of Thanksgiving-y. Like the first one, it feels very
It's the sweater
it
that
feels very rope
I'm
sweater.
wearing.
Yeah, it's the sweater
Speaking of Chris
in
Evans,
the
though,
estate. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pain Hustlers.
Yeah.
So
Perfect segue.
that is a perfect segue. Yeah, like this looks fun. It's directed by David Yates of Harry Potter. It's
Mm-hmm.
after losing her job, a woman who's struggling to raise her daughter takes a job out of desperation. She begins work at a failing pharmaceutical startup, but what she doesn't anticipate is the dangerous racketeering scheme she's suddenly entered. Uh, this looks fun. It has a lot of Wolf of Wall Street energy. I'm about it.
I like it too. I mean, I love Emily Blunt. I think she's great and everything, but Chris Evans, I love when he plays an asshole. I love when he's not like Johnny B. Good. When he's
So
not Captain America, I loved him in Not Another Teen Movie and in Glass or not Glass Onion, the first Knives Out. I just said it.
dude,
I think he's
he was
perfect in that movie.
terrific in The Gray Man. I know a lot of people don't really like The Gray Man. I had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fun with The Gray Man. Um, like when he's in that role, he's
Hmm.
terrific. He plays the perfect toolback.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of I don't know, like I'd like to see more salesmen in movies that are. He plays a salesperson, right?
Yeah,
Does it? Yeah,
seems like
I'd
that.
love to
Yeah,
see like salesmen in movies that are accurately depicted and not like a caricature of like crazy, unethical or slimy or anything like that, and also not some like quick talking, just like kind of like a more accurate portrayal. And it looks like this might be it. And I think I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah. Um, no one will save you. Um, Bryn finds a solace within the walls of her home where she grew up until she is awakened one night by strange noises from unearthly intruders. So this is like a UFO home invasion kind of movie.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I mean, it looks tense.
It looks
I
interesting.
see Caitlin. Yeah, Caitlin Deaver, who I remember from Last Man Standing. She's in a bunch of little. She's a side character in several shows and movies, but she I think she became famous from Tim Allen's
That
second
and
show, Last Man Standing.
that, and then also the movie she did with Olivia Wilde.
Yeah,
God, why am I forgetting the name of that?
I'm
Uh,
um, but
I'm
she,
gonna
yeah,
forget.
it's definitely a
I'm gonna
tense
look it up.
trailer. Yeah, I mean, Jess will probably want to see it for sure. The only thing I have going for me is Jess. I just mentioned a minute ago about the horror movies and when I'm going to see it. Jess actually doesn't love horror. She loves horror movies, but not in theaters. I think it's just a bit of an intense experience sometimes. So the fact this is coming out on Hulu makes me and her probably feel better.
Yeah,
But
I think it looks fine. I think it looks fine. I wasn't, you know, blown away by the trailer, but I think it looks pretty solid. I think it looks solid. Um, and I had the name of that movie, but you scared it right out of me. Oh my god, I'm gonna be
so
thinking about this the entire night, and it's gonna pop up in my head. It's essentially this is messed up, but it's essentially super bad, but not super bad. Um, it's gonna
we
kill
got
me.
Apple TV Plus is putting out a new Monarch Legacy of the Monsters.
Yes, this looks awesome, and it's very interesting that Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell are playing the same character, but from different time periods. I thought they were going to be doing the whole father son thing. That apparently is not the case. And this is set in the same universe as Kong Skull Island, Godzilla 2014, Godzilla versus Kong, Godzilla King of the Monsters. This is essentially kind of tying everything together, and it looks really good.
Yeah, Apple TV Plus, they started off. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know if you subscribe or know much about them, but they when they started off. I mean, I'm a huge Apple fanboy. I am the biggest Apple sheep out there. I'll buy anything they sell. Um, so I was very excited about this coming, like them launching Apple TV Plus. And when it started, there was so much or not that there wasn't much content, but there was a lot to absorb it all. Like I mean, they might have dropped 4 or 5 shows at once. It's like, well, I can't watch all 5 shows, but I did watch the morning show and see with Jason Momoa and Archie Madekwe, who we'll talk about. I liked it. Okay, it filled a void when Game of Thrones ended, but most people hated it. Morning
My,
show I've liked
my
a
wife
lot.
really
I
liked
think yeah, a lot of people don't like it. I think it's pretty good. I don't mind it at
it.
all. I like the commentary. I mean, maybe it's a little heavy handed, but I think it's a pretty good show, and I think Billy Crudup and it's awesome. It's not the point, but after that, I mean, there's inarguably great content that's coming out. Severance is awesome. Coda, the movie, is might be my favorite movie ever. I mean, I
Coda was
mentioned that the first time I came on
Coda
the
was
show.
amazing.
I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
putting out really good quality stuff. Hijack I watched recently with Idris Elba. We liked that. It was pretty good. But I
Ted
haven't seen
Lasso.
Silo. I haven't seen Blackbird. I haven't seen Shrinking. I haven't seen the movie Tetris. All of these I've heard are awesome, and I haven't seen
So
any of them.
Tetris is
So
really
I have
good, and so is Shrinking. Shrinking's incredible. You need to watch that. Like,
with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford.
yes, it's absolutely
Yeah,
incredible.
I'd love to. I mean, I've heard great things. I mean, Seth Rogen's got a show on there, Platonic. I think. I mean, I have faith in Apple TV Plus. I think they're investing their money in the right places. I think it took a minute for them to find their way, and even when they were doing that, I liked a lot of their content and still do. But sure, I mean, Legacy of the Monsters sounds good. I hope it's the best version of these monsters we've had. It looks like an interesting because I kind of would have expected it to be more of a less monsters, more people talking about the monsters type show. But it looks like, I mean, even in the trailer, the monsters in there, so it looks like the monsters
It
are going to
look
be a big part of it.
it's probably going to have the monsters be a backdrop to the characters. Honestly, I liked Godzilla 2014. I like Kong Skull Island. Godzilla King of the Monsters I thought was a lot of fun, but it is really stupid. And then Godzilla Kong versus
Versus
Godzilla,
Kong.
or Godzilla versus Kong, whatever the title is, was not a fan of that. Um,
Yeah, I
so
think they're all about the same. I think they're all like stupid fun movies, kind of like they kind of hit that realm of like. I mean, yeah, they're a good time and they're fun to watch and stuff, but they're not. None of them impressed me all that much. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen them all. I'm sure I could rank them if I rewatched them and give a
yeah,
little more thought on it. But
I think I gave one of the first review shows I ever did. I think I gave Godzilla versus Kong. I think I gave it like a C plus or something like that because I really love the fight sequences. Because the fight sequences are awesome. Everything else in between is, yeah, you know.
speaking of
Um,
great fight sequences, how do you like that? Another segue.
I like it. I like it.
Are you watching Ahsoka?
Am I watching Ahsoka? Listen,
Are you
Walker.
caught up on it? I guess.
I don't know if you can tell by what's
Yeah.
behind or not. But yeah, I'm definitely watching Ahsoka, dude. What are your thoughts on it so far?
I like it. I like it. It we're 4 episodes in at this point. Well, let me ask you this first. I did you watch Clone Wars and Rebels?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
I
So
binge watched Clone Wars in 2015. Oddly enough, with my dad, um, and we had a lot of fun watching that together. Love that show. Ahsoka became one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Love her. Um,
Mhm.
and the dynamic she has with Anakin is just wonderful. Um, and then Rebels, I was late to the party on. I only saw the Darth Maul stuff in Rebels, and
Mhm.
finally, friend and former guest of the show, Corey Sanzone, finally broke me. And after Rise of Skywalker, I had to fix like kind of like that Star Wars itch that I still had and craved. So I
Mhm.
binge watched Rebels and was just so mad that I didn't watch it sooner because that is also incredible. I know they're animated TV shows, but they are wonderful. Animation shouldn't be discredited just because it's animation. Animation's a wonderful art form, beautiful art form, and you can capture wonderful stories with it. And Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars. I know this is a long way to answer your question, but they're both wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think animation's discounted and it shouldn't be. I think it's awesome. I think those shows are very good. I watched them both during COVID. They were also to scratch a Star Wars itch or to just. I'm such a completionist. I just wanted to fill in the gaps of my canon knowledge. You know, still haven't played whatever the new Cal Kestis game is. Fallen Survivor is what it's
Yeah,
called.
Fallen
I
Order then
think.
Survivor.
Yeah. So I need to play that to fill it in. But I liked Clone Wars. I liked Ahsoka. I love the last season of Clone Wars. The last third of the most recent season. I think that's some of the best Star Wars out there. And then I loved
Ever.
Rebels. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. These characters are great. Like Chopper. Um, I'm enjoying this carryover into it. I'm enjoying them getting their time and their due in live action. I think it's flushing them out better. I think Clone Wars did a lot of work on the prequels a little bit and made that a little more. I mean, it's not going to change the movie, but it added some stakes for me. It made it something. It explained some things a little better, and I really had. I thought that was valuable.
Yeah, that's part of the Star Wars magic is they will introduce things and broad
Yeah,
strokes and then they'll go in and they'll fill in the blanks with stuff and it adds richness to those films that you already might have loved or you might not have liked and it adds to it, makes you like it more or makes you love it more, whatever. Um
yeah,
that's the magic of Star Wars.
yeah, and so I like the animated series, and now I'm glad that this is continuing. I like these characters. I will say the first and second episode felt a little like, God, this was just, I mean, like, I guess it's necessary, because so many people didn't watch Clone Wars and Rebels and they wanted to watch it and they want to watch it, but they don't want to be completely lost. My cousin, for example, Andrew, he's a huge Star Wars fan. He's right there with me. I mean, we our whole lives loved it. He just doesn't want to watch the animated series, which is fine, or he hasn't gotten around to it or whatever. And like, he doesn't know he knows who Ahsoka is from Mandalorian, but it's always been kind of a question mark. And now he's really having to dive into it. And now you add in Sabine Wren and you add, and like all these like, so I guess it's necessary, but just from my perspective, it felt like the first and second episode maybe could have been one episode. Maybe it felt like we got to that reenactment of that final scene of Rebels, with Sabine and Ahsoka staring at the mural, and her
I think that's why
them
they
setting
dropped them
off on their
both at the
mission.
same time.
What was that?
I think that's why they dropped episode 1 and 2 at the same
Yeah,
time, because I figure.
yeah. It just felt to me. It felt like watching the two episodes. By the end of episode 2, I was a little unfulfilled, unsatisfied by it. Like, I just wish we had gotten more ground covered. Like, I wish all of the content that I got in those 2 episodes was in one episode, and then I got another episode to like further the story a little longer, further. But um, since that 3 started to pick up, got pretty interesting, some great action scenes, and then 4 is the best yet. 4 was tense. I thought, it's really scratching the lights. I keep saying scratching the itch, but the lightsaber thing. If you missed out on that in Andor or
Yeah,
something like that, it is in full form here.
yeah, I have absolutely loved this show. The first 2 episodes I thought they laid the groundwork perfectly for people who may not have seen Rebels or Clone Wars to get you up on the kind of person Ahsoka is, what her journey is going to be. It seems like she's going from being, kind of that Ahsoka the Gray, kind of being disenchanted with the Jedi, to kind of going on that Luke journey that he went in from The Last Jedi to the end of that film, where he is like, no, I am a Jedi and I will not be the last Jedi. The Jedi need to be in this galaxy. We don't need to do this whole, like, I'm not a Jedi, but I'm going to live by because you see where it can go with Balin, right? With him not being a Jedi, but he's leaning more dark, and you can see how, if you're not careful, it can corrupt you. And that it's all about balance. Ahsoka, not wanting any attachments because she saw what attachments did to Anakin. However, what it's doing to her and her relationships by essentially cutting off any form of attachment that she could have. It's all about balance, right? You gotta have attachments because it is what saved Anakin Skywalker. So I'm going off on my whole Star Wars spiel, but like, I love what they're doing. I love what they're doing. Episode 3 was a lot of really cool action, especially with Ahsoka in space. Love that.
With her astronaut helmet to hold her tendril.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was great. And then, of course, seeing the last week's episode was terrific. Last week's episode was terrific.
There was a lot of cool things in that episode I thought were sweet. I thought the Sabine, like, she was going to use the Force and like it didn't work, and she ended up just hitting him with a hand rocket or whatever. I was like, that was cool. I love the hyperspace ring that they're building, and like they were all going towards it, and I don't forget her name, but the woman who's the main antagonist who Balin and Shin are like reporting to, I guess. She's like, just ignore them, and it's like, well, what's gonna happen? Like, in my head, I'm like, are they gonna like fly that through them? Like, I don't. In my head, I'm like making up what's gonna happen, and it was like, yep, that's exactly what happened, and it was awesome. I love how they like that was just such a cool shaped. I don't know. It's just the whole concept of it was really cool. I'm glad they executed it that way.
Yeah, and
I also like the lightsaber destroying the map too when he stuck it in and it just got hot and just broke in half. Though that was cool.
The world between worlds, man. Getting to see Anakin again.
Yeah, that was cool. I'm really interested in where they take that.
I am too. We'll see in a week, and we'll get to report back on it.
I'm also worth mentioning. Very sad about Ray Stevenson. I think the Balin character is awesome so far, and I think his portrayal of it is top notch. I think he's a
Qui-Gon.
kind of, yeah, or but he's got this like charming, charismatic like effect to him. You know what I mean? Where he almost like I like it. I something. I mean, he seems honest. He seems him and Ahsoka are both. They're closer than
They're closer
you
than
take a
they are far
traditional.
apart. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're closer together, and both of them are handling that where they are on the spectrum of light and dark very interestingly, and it shockingly it's kind of something we haven't seen that much of from their in Star Wars, and I think they're doing a really good job with it.
Yeah. And I'm
But the whole show in general, fantastic. I think the samurai, the Kurosawa inspiration is obvious and beautiful. It's shot well. It's got a lot of fun action. We, you know, getting to see a bunch of lightsabers and seeing things. But what are you seeing? Anything else? Have you seen anything in the theater recently? Or
oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I've seen two movies this week or this weekend rather. I saw Strays and I saw The Nun 2. Strays.
I want to see Strays. I don't want to see the Nun too, but I want to see Strays. I
So
haven't seen either of
Strays,
them.
I was kind of. So I'll give my
Don't
rating here.
spoil them for me.
I won't spoil them. I'll give you my rating for Strays and The Nun 2. So for Strays, I give it like a rent it. Um, Maybe it was the fact that I saw it by myself. I'm not sure, but I just I was expecting it to be funnier than it was. Don't get me wrong; it had
That's a bummer.
a lot of really solid chuckles in it. But I feel like I would have probably enjoyed the movie had I been a little bit more if I had I been inebriated. Like
Sure, sure. Or with
it,
friends.
yeah, or with friends. It's one of those movies. It's fine. It's fine, but I probably won't watch it again unless I want to watch it with Carly because I just want her reaction. As for the Nun 2, uh, I think so. With this movie, the first Nun is more or less really the worst of the Conjuring movies. It's the worst one. It's really boring. It's
This one
dull.
is the Nun 2 or the first one?
The first one. It's
Okay.
boring. It's dull. I didn't really think about it much outside of one visual or two visual shots from the movie itself, um, which is unfortunate because the Nun character, the way that James Wan directed that character, that was really done in post production through reshoots because they needed the original creature that they had. They didn't think really suited the film, so they went back and they did this creepy nun, um, and it really worked in that movie. So it was really disappointing when you get to the first nun movie for it not to work. And with this one, it's a lot better, but it's still not great. Like it takes a long time to get going, and I won't say I was like bored, but I was kind of like not really that interested for like the first half. But once you
Mm-hmm.
get to like the second half, it's actually pretty fun, pretty entertaining. There's some head scratchy things that happen where you're like, okay. It gets a little bonkers, especially in the third act. But in general, uh, I thought it was like a high end, similar to Strays, a high end rented. In the sense that I think this could be like a fun watch on Halloween with your buddies and a bucket full of candy, watching a good horror film that might struggle with the first half, but once you get to the second, third act, or midway through the second act into the third act, it's pretty enjoyable. Um, it's not very scary though. I will say it's not very scary. Um, so yeah, I give it like a high end rent it, a high end rent it for me.
I may or may not take your advice. We will see.
I don't
But
think you're gonna see.
I, yeah, I
I
don't
don't
think I
think you're
hear
gonna
either.
see.
Um, so I know I've seen. We've both seen a couple movies recently that I feel like we can talk about. We can get into a little spoiler discussion about. One of them's Blue Beetle, and I'll break down the
Mhm.
synopsis that I got online. Blue Beetle, an alien scarab chooses Jaime Reyes as to be its symbiotic host, bestowing the recent college graduate with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes a superhero known as the Blue Beetle. Um, it's directed by Angel Manuel Soto, starring Zolo Mariduena,
Mary Dwayne.
Mariduena,
Mhm.
George Lopez, Susan Sarandon, a bunch of other people. What did you think of Blue Beetle?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. I gave it a low end go see it. Like I think it's
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable enough. And the heart of the film works enough, which is the family dynamic, that it's able
Mm-hmm.
to carry it through what are a little bit more like uh, been there, done that kind of ground, which I hate saying
Mm-hmm.
because there's only like 7 stories that you can tell, really,
Sure.
but it's
Sure.
all in how you execute them that can either make it transcend that or it stays stagnant. And this one sometimes kind of just it stays stagnant. It's a little cliche. It fall even down to a lot of the lines that a lot of the characters say. You say it in your head before they say it out loud. But Sholo Meloduena is
That was much better pronunciation than mine.
thank you. I've been practicing. He's really good.
Netiri.
The Diddy. No,
So
he
Jess listened to our first podcast and kept making fun of the way I said Netiri every time I'd say her name. And I'm sorry.
no, like he is really good. He's awesome. I like him a lot. George Lopez is really funny. Susan, but everything else, just outside of the family dynamic, is it's fine. It's fine and kind of forgettable, but it's that family dynamic that makes it transcend. I put out a TikTok about it. Mm, uh, I think a couple weeks ago when I saw the movie. Um,
Hmm.
I think it's fine. It's fine. I give it a low end go see it.
Yeah, I kind of hate that this is the first. I didn't like this movie at all, at
That's
all. Like
fair.
I kind of like it was
I
a
get it.
chore to get through it for me. I mean, I'm always gonna see stuff to fill in the gaps, and not that this fills in any gaps in the DCU or DCEU or anything like that, but which is kind of refreshing to separate itself from things. I can argue that the family dynamic's the best part of it. Um, and the Blue Beetle himself was had a great performance, but to me it was one of the most predictable movies I've ever. I mean, you said it yourself, where you could say the lines before they say it was so. And I know movies are predictable, and I hate to be too hard on it. And I've listened to a couple other reviews that were a little more favorable than mine that I've tried to like wonder what I'm kind of missing on it. You know, some people have said like, well, it's kind of aimed for kids. It's corny comedy, and it's like, is it though? I mean, is it any more aimed at kids than the rest of the superhero movies? I understand like there's some kid like friendly or attractive like stuff in it, but like a lot of the jokes are kind of pretty edgy for it being like I don't. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a kids movie, but it's not any more a kids movie than Shazam or than the next one. Like it's just it it just felt unfunny to me. It felt like, but I will say there were good things about it. I mean, there were slivers of great performances. Like George Lopez, I actually didn't like him much at all throughout the movie until we got to the heart stuff, the emotional stuff. He had some moments of like, "Hey, you did." I mean, I liked that. You know what I mean? I actually liked his emotional stuff more than his funny stuff. And I mean, Susan Sarandon was fine for part of it, and then just kind of useless for part of it. It felt it just everybody had like moments where it was like, "Ooh, am I gonna actually like this performance?" It's starting to show, and then it would go away again, and I wouldn't see it. And then there'd be moments of like, "Okay, that was funny. That was pretty like pretty good bits," and then it wouldn't come back for a while. And um, so I ended up giving the movie a 40 out of 100.
So you would
So
give this like a
it's
low end rent it, or like a skip it.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a skip it. I mean, it's on the low. I mean, I typically when I'm rating movies, like the first impression will put me somewhere, and things can change it drastically. But a lot of the time, I'll almost like ride. It's almost like a timeline. Like how long is this good or how long is this bad? Like if I'm sitting at a 73 and it's like I'm enjoying what's happening. Nothing major's happening, but if I'm enjoying what's happening, it's like okay, 74, 75. Like I'm starting to like this. I'm like this, but it happens the other way too, and it went down and down. Now I will say in its favor, I know go me, I was deciding hard between a 39 and a 40 for a while between it, and I know that's 1 point, but that's a big point. It's a different sentiment on whether the movie's a 39 or a 40.
Because it's still going to be a skip it no matter what.
Yeah. I did not love the movie. I did
Yeah,
love the suit though. That was cool.
here's the thing. I completely understand why. Like I watch it and I as I was watching it, I'm going, I understand why someone might really dislike this movie. I get it. But while I was watching it, I was entertained by it. And I enjoyed it enough to where I didn't leave the theater going, man, I really wish I just would have spent some time with my daughter at home. I this was fine. It was good. It was good. But I probably won't revisit it. And to be honest with you, I do not think it's going to carry over in the DCU. I know James Gunn has said, like, oh, it's the first character, but it's not the first movie. And he always
so
mentions the character's name. So the character will continue. But that actor, this movie, probably won't. He's just using a lot of wordplay to try to get people to go see these movies, just like he is with Aquaman 2, which is going to come out and probably not do too well. And
yeah.
hopefully,
It's
Superman Legacy hits because it
I
not
do too.
only
God, I do too.
that is a very um, it's a very fitting title because not only is it the legacy of Superman, it's also going to be the legacy of James Gunn. You are
It's a
betting
big deal.
everything on this. It better work. And I mean, I have faith in Mr. Gunn though.
I do too. But it is a lot of weight um, on his shoulders. But overall, I just didn't love it. I mean, I thought it was a little lazy and predictable, and then it also shifted tones a lot. Like I mean, obviously, a lot of the movie was very silly, very corny, and it seemed intentional, but it was very silly, and then it would go to like devastating the next second. Like it was the tonal shift of like one moment we're just silly like fart jokes, and the next moment his dad has a heart attack and dies in his yard while his house is being burned down, and then he gets kidnapped. It's like Jesus, dude. Like I mean, it's the most. The only people who could do that well is Banshees of Inisherin. That's the only people who could go from that silly to that devastating in one moment.
Shtick. That's that director's shtick. He does that. Look at his
but
filmography.
moving on to something I liked a little more, it can't speak for you, but Gran Turismo. We both saw that recently too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a synopsis for that here, based on the unbelievable, inspiring true story of a team of underdogs, a struggling working class gamer, a failed former race car driver, and an idealistic motorsport executive who risk it all to take on the most elite sport in the world. I like this movie. It felt like a pretty stock sports movie with some good heart, some great intense action and scenes, and I walked out of it feeling inspired and feeling good. What did you think about it?
I really like this movie. Look,
Yeah,
just like I said for Blue Beetle, there's only 7 kind of stories that you can tell. It's all about the execution. And this is a script that is very paint by numbers. However, because of the exceptional directing from Neil Blomkamp, who, look, I know you could say whatever you want about Chappie, and I think he did this other movie called Demonic. I want to say,
Neil Blomkamp.
yeah,
Yeah, I've literally only heard of one thing he's ever done ever, and that's District 9, and I haven't seen it, so I am like not familiar with his work at all.
Okay, District 9 is terrific. You need to watch District 9 and The Crow right now. But District 9 is terrific, and I also really like Elysium. He's an exceptional director, and I'm glad he was able to kind of come back out and have a W under his belt with Gran Turismo. I thought this movie was exceptionally well directed. It's elevated because of that direction and also because of the performances in this movie. Orlando Bloom is great in this. Freaking David Harbour is wonderful in this. I love him in this. He has no business being as good as he is in this, and he is. He's so good. And then freaking Jaimin Hansu, dude, that scene at the end. I don't. Are we doing spoilers here for this?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Can we put a timestamp at the bottom? Can we do that in the description so we can skip ahead?
Yeah.
So we'll give people warnings. I mean, obviously we didn't do it for the last movie. Sorry, we barely did any spoilers on Blue Beetle, but
yeah,
we'll put the timestamp to skip over this if you need it.
Yeah, we'll do spoilers for Blue Beetle and Gran Turismo as well. But when his father goes in there in the trailer at the end and has that one-on-one with him, dude, it hit me right in the feels.
Great.
It hit me.
The better scenes of the movie. I agree.
And then also, it's a cheap pop for me. I'm a big music guy. And at the end of this movie, they play the song God Moving Upon the Face of the Waters, or I think it's called that by Moby. It plays the end of Heat. And they played it at the end of this, and it works. It works. I had a lot of fun with this. The racing sequences are terrific. They are really intense, really exceptionally well directed. It's by Moby. It's God Moving Over the Face of the Water is the name of the song, and they play it at the end of this, and it's terrific. I would give this a very, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna give it a must see. I give it like a must see. I had a lot of fun with it. I did. It's a little, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna go back down. I'm gonna go to a very, very high go see it. It's a little cliche in parts where you can almost guess the story beats. So I'll knock it down on that end. But everything else, I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, I mean it's a. I mean, I described it as like a stock sports movie, but it does. I mean, because it does have a few beats that are like, I guess, predictable, but it's executed very well. I mean, I think I agree. David Harbour, who I've liked in most of his roles. I mean, he's obviously most known for Stranger Things, and he was in Black Widow. He's in MCU as the, who is he? He's like the captain. The captain, is he the Captain America's
Red Guardian
opposite? Oh, okay.
It's Red Guardian. Oh, random. It's Book Smart. That's the Olivia Wilde movie.
Okay. I know.
Told you. It's going to pop into my head randomly. But yeah.
So I've loved David Harbour in most things, but he was fantastic in this.
He's really good.
Archie Madekwe, I'm not even like a big. We've talked about him a lot because he was in the trailer earlier that we talked about, the Saltburn trailer that we were interested in, but he was also and he's also an Apple TV Plus show called C. I mean, he was fine in C, but he didn't stand out to me. In this, there was a couple scenes, like when he finds out about the Spectator dying and stuff like that. I thought he really performed that very well. Orlando Bloom, I haven't seen him. You know, he's been in a zillion dollars worth of movies, and I haven't seen him in a while. But he's in an all-time sleazeball role. I mean, he's just a douche in this movie. I hate him the whole time. I mean, every time he's trying to, you know, get Archie or Jan. Is it Jan or John? Jan.
Yeah.
The character.
Yeah.
Jaimin Hansu's awesome. The scene you mentioned took it away from me. Also, Jan's mom, played by one only Ginger Spice.
Oh, dude. When she sees him getting the wreck and she has that reaction.
I know.
I was like, oh my God.
Ginger Spice got chops. Yeah. I thought it was really good. I also love the video game integration, and honestly, it left me leaving like wanting a little more. I could see them could have overdone that, like the cops avoided and the graphics on the screen and stuff, and integrating the game into reality. I could see them overdoing that. I don't think they overdid it at all. I kind of wish they had done it more. I really liked that part. It was cool to me.
Yeah, some of
I don't know much about the sport or the video game though. Do you? I don't play the game or follow the racing.
I never played the video game, and I don't
Yeah.
really
I probably
follow.
played it in PS2 days, but I don't.
Listen, what I do know is that some of the coaching tactics that he employed in this reminded me a lot of your coaching tactics. So I was really appreciative of that.
The David Harbour.
Yeah.
You threw
wrist
up on
control,
my lawn.
man. Do you know what a wrist is? Yeah. Yeah. I thought he stole the movie. It's really good. It's really good. Like I said, I give it a high end. Go see it. Knock it down a little bit for being a little cliched in parts, but it hits emotionally, and it also hits. It hits on the entertainment value as well, especially for those racing sequences. They're very well done.
Yeah, I agree. I got to just go see it as well. 74 out of 100 is where I put it. But speaking of things we love, I figure, since we're starting this new weekly podcast and our whole new show, the Ben and Walker movie show, in September, I feel like we could do a little catch up for ourselves, for the listeners, for everybody. Talk about what we haven't had a chance to talk about or review, and maybe spit out our top 5 favorite movies of the year so far. And maybe in the next couple weeks we can do a couple other things, just kind of doing a little catch up for everybody, so we're all on the same page to round out the last Q3, Q4. So sound good to you?
That sounds good to me, man.
Cool. So I think we'll do top 5 movies. We'll start with 5, alternate, go up 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You think? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
It doesn't matter to me. You know what? You want? Yeah. You know what? You go ahead first. You go first. All right. I want to hear what your number 5.
I got a John Wick Chapter 4.
Nice.
That was a 90 out of 100 on here. I think John Wick series is so awesome, and as much as I love the John Wick movie, I really loved the rewatch on the weekend leading up to going to see it. My cousin and I spent like the weekend hanging out, watching 1, 2, and 3, and just loving it. We were like, let's go see 4 tonight, and it delivered, man. I mean, how many franchises can say that 1 through 4? I mean, I bet if you ask 100 people, you'll get all kinds of answers on which one's the best one out of the 4. That franchise is redefining. I mean, they've got a competitor that might come up as well, but they're one of the main players in the action genre that is showing it how it's done and setting the bar at a high level. So my number 5 is John Wick Chapter 4.
Nice.
What do you got for number 5?
Air.
Okay.
Air. So this was a really tough race for me at number 5. But I ended up going with Air because I think it is exceptionally directed. And they take what is like 10 minutes worth of that awesome Last Dance documentary and make it into a wonderful and kind of thrilling hour and 45-minute movie that is very tight and also, a way to sell Nike. But it's a terrific sports movie that reminded me a lot of like what a modern day version of Jerry Maguire would be, directed by one of our best directors, Ben Affleck. So I really enjoyed Air quite a lot. Great performance by Viola Davis as always.
Oh. And about 5 other people. The movie's also full of good performances. Yeah. Number 4, I am gonna put Barbie. I loved Barbie.
You're giving me the right amount of energy for this.
As long as it's enough. I was hype about Barbenheimer. I was excited. I just loving the cultural impact it had. I definitely wanted to see them both on the same day too. So I tried to make a point to do the double feature. Enjoyed it a lot. Saw it by myself. My wife wanted to see it with some friends a week later, so I went by myself and saw it, which was a little awkward at first. Walked in, sat in the front row next to the handicap area where you'd like the empty slot that you'd back the wheelchair into,
Yeah.
and this woman, daughter, and mother got sold. They were not in wheelchairs, and they got sold those tickets, and they just walked in, and they couldn't figure out what to do, and they came up to the guy sitting in the middle area and was like, "Hey, is this?" And she was like, "No, this is 6 and 7." And then he came to me. I was like, "No, this is 10." They're like, "Well, where's 8 and 9?" It's like it's the floor right here, and it's like, well, why'd they sell? I don't know. It just reminded me of it. Sorry, Barbie. I loved it. I thought the message was great. I think a lot of people, it might get some hate from different people, and a lot of people might think it's cliche, or they might think whatever. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was well performed. I thought it was beautifully shown. I thought the message was not too on the nose. I thought it was well said, and it affected me. I think I hope it affected other people. I hope it opened some eyes and enlightened some people. And maybe it didn't. Maybe I'm too late to the game, but I thought the message was delivered in a way that was effective to me, and I didn't think it was cheesy or overdone or any of that. I thought the movie was great. I have it 92 out of 100. I do think I maybe was a little overly excited just because I walked out laughing and crying and everything like that. And I think I was a little, like we mentioned earlier, that you come out of a theater really hype about something. So it might have dropped a couple points on me since then, but it's I got it at a 92 out of 100, number 4 for me. Number 4 favorite movie on the year.
So I got a confession to make, Walker.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw this movie, I initially gave it a very high rent it, because I thought that once you get past like the initial 45 minutes, it's very messy. And while I do think that, and I think the Will Ferrell character is essentially useless, um, I've thought about it more. I've edged up my grade on it to a go see it. Like, this is the most interesting movie of the year for me. It's the most fun movie to talk about. It is freaking hilarious. I think Greta Gerwig is like, I love her. She is so awesome.
She's here to stay.
She is Little Women, um, uh, Lady Bird in this.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, and she's so one. And hearing her speak about her movies, how infectiously enthusiastic she is about what she does and the people she works with. How can you not like her? She's awesome, and the way that she directed this movie could have been so generic, and instead it's not. And instead, it's a very smart and very well crafted movie that I think is still imperfect, but is a really good movie. The more I think about it, I'm allowed to walk back my takes, So I
encourage it,
I think
especially when they're wrong.
Love it when jokes come around. It's enough for me, man. But I really, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed Barbie. But my number 4 is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. This movie was so freaking rad. It's just balls to the wall, nonstop, almost 3 hours, feels like an hour and a half. It just flies by. Tom Cruise, man. Tom Cruise. He never disappoints. That action sequence at the end, the driving sequence is freaking awesome. Like, it's, yeah. I just, this movie is great. It was great, dude. It's great.
It was great, and it was full of a bunch of great movies. It's been an awesome summer for movies. It's been exciting. So in my number 3, Oppenheimer, 93 out of 100. I think it was beautiful. I saw it twice. So the first time I saw it, it was part of the double feature with Barbie. I don't think I gave it a fair shake. It's tough. Double features are tough. I love movies, but especially with at the end of Oppenheimer, I'd been in the movie for 5.5 hours. Like it had been a long time. It's a big tonal shift. It's hard to sit still that long. I will be honest. I went with I went with someone who didn't enjoy it very much, and I could tell they weren't enjoying it, and they were a little bored during it. So that didn't. It made me feel a little like, oh, I hate that they're hating it. Like I felt bad that I was like drug them to a boring movie for them. I probably should have known better that they weren't gonna like it. But I watched it again, tried to give it a fair shake, really dive into the dialogue, have fresh eyes for it, and I mean, it's that third act is so intense. The bomb's beautiful. I mean, it's really well done. I mean, Nolan. I don't know where it sits on my Nolan movies. He's so good. I
That's a
mean,
tough list.
I got to rewatch him to make the decision.
Yeah.
But Oppenheimer's my third favorite movie of the year at 93 out of 100. Obviously, it was one of the biggest events of the year. Excited to see it again. Just sad it's going to have to be on my little TV screen at home, the way Nolan intended on an iPhone.
Hey, that's where he watches Talladega Nights. And Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, two of his favorite movies. John Wick Chapter 4 is my number 3. This is one of the greatest action movies ever made. I genuinely think that. Like, it is absolutely spectacular, those action sequences. The way that they are shot, the way that they are captured. It doesn't do shaky cam. Everything is steady. Everything's in your face.
So
You
clear.
see everything. It's so intense. They put so much work and effort into these beautifully choreographed fight sequences. It's art. Like, this is like an art film, but it's just it's so great. It's so great. I saw it with a packed out theater, and it was going crazy. It was going crazy. People were throwing out lines left and right. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. My theater experience, but the movie itself is terrific. Yeah, this was the great closing chapter. If it does indeed end up being the last chapter
No,
for
that's a big mess
John
too
Wick.
on where they're going with that. Who knows?
Yeah,
I know they're doing the TV show. Is it
the
Peacock?
Continental. Yeah, on Peacock. It's a
Um,
3-part event. That's what they're
ah.
calling it.
So number 2 for Walker, Creed 3. I loved Creed 3. I thought Creed 3 was shot beautifully. I loved it. I mean, obviously this is a touchy subject. It's undeniable. Jonathan Majors is phenomenal in it. I mean, his performance is one of the great. I mean, I really was impressed by it. It was
It's a
from
great
beginning to end
performance.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan was a great performance in his job behind the camera on both sides of the camera. Really great job. I thought the fight scenes were shot beautifully. And I might be being a little liberal between the best movie of the year and my favorite movie of the year. I just had a blast watching this movie. Every fight scene, everything from Majors and Michael B. Jordan. I just thought I love the whole trilogy of Creed, but this one was my favorite, and I enjoyed it a lot. I was excited that I ended up with it as number 2. Honestly, I was hoping it wouldn't be overly cookie cutter of a list, and I'm glad that Creed 3 ended up such high markings.
Yeah. Good pick. I really enjoyed Creed 3 as well. Number 2 for me is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think this caps off what is the best trilogy in the MCU. Guardians 1 is still, I think, the single best Marvel film. Guardians Volume 2 is a movie that I really enjoyed the first time I watched it, but over the years has become one of my favorite MCU movies in that discussion with the first one. And this Guardians 3 really takes the cake. It is an emotional send off to all these characters and ends in a way that it's not only satisfying from a entertainment perspective, but if you've invested yourself in these characters, it is also a satisfying conclusion where they end up, and how everything wraps up. It's in particular for my favorite character in the MCU, not in terms of Marvel Comics, but my favorite character in the MCU, Peter Quill Star-Lord, where his character wraps up from start to finish. It's beautiful. Um, I absolutely love the story. It is heart-wrenching stuff that they do with Rocket. And
yeah, it really is. And honestly, Jess and I saw it, and we were several people were like, "Oh, get ready to cry." It's like, dude, what happens in this movie? Everybody was like, "Get ready to cry." So when I saw it, my expectations were, I mean, for no doubt, Rocket's dying. I mean, that's goes without saying, but uh it was going to be devastating whatever happened. And like, obviously the movie still is emotional and hard, but the whole time I'm just waiting for the shoe drop. I'm just waiting for Rocket to die. It's like, and it never comes, and it was like, wait,
it's so genius.
I hate to take anything away from it. It was just kind of my, like, how I was like set up and what my expectations were going in kind of messed me up on it. But I agree, emotional gut punch, beautifully done, wonderful movie.
Yeah.
Can you guess my number one?
It's Mission Impossible.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse? Across the Spider-Verse?
Oh. Yeah. I think Across the Spider-Verse, I think so highly of this movie. And we talked earlier about animation and the respect it deserves. And I think animation is valuable, and I think it allows you to tell this story that you can't tell in live action. And I don't necessarily just mean this movie. I mean most animation. I mean Family Guy. There's jokes in Family Guy that can't work in live action. Yeah. They're so funny because you can do it in animation. Like you can take things to the extreme that maybe in real life or even in like action movies, that if they were done with live action, it would look wonky, or it would look like bad CGI, or it wouldn't be realistic. It doesn't have to be realistic in animation. You can make it look exactly like the rest of the movie, and it flows so perfectly. But this particular animated movie, when I'm like grinning ear to ear watching it. I mean, the work that went into this movie, the talent, it's just dripping off the screen. I mean, everyone involved in this movie worked their asses off. I think maybe to a fault. I think there might be some issues with that, but it also, you can just tell this movie has so much talent, and it's got so much to offer, and it explores storytelling and animation in like a way it's just not been done other than the first. I mean, I know there's a couple other animated movies recently that have been also very cool and interesting in their own way, but the Spider, I think it's awesome. I got a 95 out of 100. It's my favorite movie of the year so far. And when I was giving animation a bunch of praise a second ago, and I do believe that, but I'm not like an animated guy. Like I don't like anime. I'll see the big stuff, but like I'm not like overly like into animation. I just do respect it and find the value in it. So for it to be my number one movie on the year, though, so far is, I think it says something. I mean, it's that impressive.
It's a great half movie, man. It's a great half movie. No, I do. That is generally like my biggest issue with the movie, but it's a great movie. It's a great movie. I gave it a must see for a reason. It's probably my number 8 favorite movie of the year. But I love it as well. I understand why so many people do. I like it better than the first one, which I think is still one of the most overrated movies that I've ever seen. Even though it's odd because I like that movie so much, but people talk about it like it's the second coming of Jesus Christ, and I just don't view it that high. But I still really enjoy it. This one is even better. It improves upon the first one on every level. What they do with the character of Gwen Stacy is phenomenal. The question that they pose in this movie that they unfortunately don't really answer is still really intriguing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with the sequel. It's a great movie. Great movie. Can you guess what my number 1 is?
Oppenheimer.
Yeah. That movie's a masterpiece.
Well, I was sitting here looking at my list, and I was like, wow. I was like, we really didn't have any that were the same except John Wick, and they were in different spots. I was like, that's cool. I love that we didn't have any. I was like, that's impressive. But I was like, no, I bet Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer is a genius movie. I think it is a genius movie made by a genius filmmaker that tells a story that on paper shouldn't be as interesting as it is because of the questions that he asks in the movie and the things that he does with the film itself in terms of the performances, um, the way that he tells the story. This is his masterpiece, and I'm gonna have to really sit and think about, for the next coming months. I'm gonna have to obviously see it again. Um, where this lands on my Christopher Nolan rankings, because Inception and The Dark Knight are movies that I absolutely love and I think of incredibly fondly. I think they're both terrific movies. Um, and this, I left the theater stunned because of the ending scene of this movie. It left me floored. I haven't left a movie quite like that ever. And I always hesitate to say, "Oh, this is the best movie ever," especially if it's so recent. I like to sit with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's the best movie ever, um, but it might be Christopher Nolan's best movie ever, which of course would put it in my top 10. So I'm really gonna have to really sit and think about it and really ponder it a little bit more. But this movie, it is a brilliant movie that left me floored. I would be absolutely shocked if he doesn't win. Which, granted, there's still a lot more of movies that are supposed to come out this year, but I would be shocked if
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't walk away with Best Director. Absolutely shocked. Or shit, even Best Picture. So
Excuse me.
we'll
Yeah,
see.
I need to rewatch some Nolan stuff too. I mean, I've been in my head, excuse me, thinking about watching Interstellar and even Memento recently. I haven't seen either of them in so long, but I'd like to redo my rankings, and it's tough to compare because this one's so different than the other ones too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's epic and things, but it's a different. And I think that might be the only thing going against it is people's expectations going into it. We're blind, just thinking like Nolan bomb. This is going to be a certain type of movie, and it's not that movie. It's its own beautiful work of art itself, but it's not what I think some people may have expect from Nolan. Like, not necessarily. I don't mean that in quality. I just mean that in material. Uh, but awesome, man. So, I mean, just to recap here, we'll go through our top five here. You had number one, Oppenheimer. Number two, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Number three, John Wick Chapter 4. Number four, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And then rounding out number five with Air. I had number one, Spider Man Across the Spider Verse. Number two is Creed 3. Number three is Oppenheimer. Number four, Barbie, and number five, John Wick Chapter 4. Some awesome movies. It's been a good year. We got a lot left. We're going to talk about some stuff coming up soon, but
we really are.
there's
Listen,
been really great stuff.
I almost had a hot take and had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem as my number 5.
Yeah, so I thought you
Like,
might. I put a couple honorable mentions, and like, Turtles was on there, Mission Impossible was on there, Guardians for me was on there, Cocaine Bear. I like that. I mean, that's probably might make top 10 at this point. I had fun with it. Um, but yeah, that's 2023 so far for us. But I think that just about covers it for the week. What do you think?
yeah, I don't have anything else to talk about, man.
Well, that was great. We really thank you all the listeners. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for clicking. This is a work in progress. This is our first episode. I think it was successful. I'm sure we'll start to figure out a way to maybe get the time down a little bit. We ran a little long here, but we're having fun talking. Hopefully, you're having fun listening. Thank you for going on the ride with us. Like we said last week, we are going to begin doing a weekly episode where we have a little more conversational stuff like this, talk movie news, talk trailers, maybe what have we seen that week. If there's a big show going on like Ahsoka, we may run through the latest episode and what we thought of it. And we may play some games, some rankings, some drafts, things like that. We're going to try to bring a lot of that over to our Instagram account as well, and TikTok and all, Threads, all of them. So please join along, subscribe to us. like, comment, engage with us. Please give us feedback. Let us know what you're liking, what you're not liking. What do you disagree with? How wrong has been? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can say. But we appreciate the community that we're going to build, and we want to grow it. Ben's been awesome for the last few years building this base of listeners and this core show that he's got. And I'm hoping I can come on and bring another creative angle that we can really grow this thing together. But for now, it was awesome. Very exciting. Thank you for joining me, Ben. Can't wait to talk to you all next week. So long for now.
Peace.